literally everywhere. You can get a selection of Game Boys, PSPs and other various things that you see people just casually playing. But where did they all come from? Well, here today we'll be finding out the history of computer games. To be honest, the history of computer games is a shady one. This is because what you may define as a computer game might be completely different to someone else's. So arguably, the first computer game was...
the Ferranti Nimrod. It played a game called Nim. This was the first computer ever built to play a game. Although I should say it was never publicly sold. It was an experiment after World War II, and later in 1951 was presented at the Festival of Britain. Made by a man called Ferranti, it didn't use a monitor. Later in 1952, a game that did use the monitor was introduced. This was Noughts and Crosses. And this is where the confusion lies. Noughts and Crosses is widely known as the first computer game, because it did use a monitor. Later on in 1938, Tennis for Two was invented. This was developed in a nuclear lab. It used an oscilloscope, which is normally used for measuring volts of energy. In 1971, Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dubney made the first arcade game to be sold commercially, and this began the era of the arcade genre. In 1972, Pong was invented. This was the most memorable classic game. After this, computer games thrusted into the master franchise we see today.
Magnavox presents Odyssey, the electronic game of the future. Odyssey easily attaches to any brand TV, black and white or color.
Atari Pac-Man!
Commodore, 'cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
The Commodore 64.
You're a starship captain in an asteroid field. Blast them with your lasers or put up your shields. As a missile commander defending your city. If you're not quick enough, they'll show no pity. The invaders won't stop us from the skies they drop.
Just keep coming.
3 out-of-this-world games from Atari, the #1 video computer system with more games than any other.
Everyone's gone Atari, the #1 video game.
Now you've learned a bit about computer games, it's time for our specialist interview.
Activation!
Do you think the history of computer games is important?
I think it's about as important as any other form of media like radio, television, cinema, any of those.
Do you think they are relevant today?
I think video games are relevant today because they're a very new form of media. It's like they're not even half the age of cinema, but they're still very important. It's a good way of getting across messages in a very interactive way, because it allows you to, they can create the worlds, but you can interact with them more. It's like you can't interact with the world that's in a book or in a film, but you can affect the way things happen in the world of a game.
Agreed. What, in your opinion, is the first computer game?
I think I've heard that it was a really simply coded game of noughts and crosses, but I'm not too sure.
It's the Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, levers too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link, yeah, get Zelda. Awesome. Intense.
The Nintendo Entertainment System.
Hey! You still don't have a Sega CD? What are you waiting for? Nintendo to make one? You have seen the games, right? Wrong answer, man. Show 'em! Want to see more?